One man, one mission, to rid the world of chronic anxiety once and for all. The Anxiety Guy, Dennis Simsek, shares his personal transformation from living a life filled with overwhelming worry to becoming a full-fledged positivity machine, a leading authority in generalized anxiety. Dennis gets to the truth of your mental health challenges and sets you on a path to transforming each and every area of your life. Here he is, the one and only, the Anxiety Guy.
I welcome you, yes you, to the Anxiety Guy podcast episode number 294. Grateful that you can join me here today on this podcast. Grateful for you sharing this podcast with someone or a group that needs it. And thank you so very much for your rates and reviews of this podcast. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and give a positive rate and review for this podcast, no matter what directory you're listening to it through. So it would mean so much to me if you left a rate and review for this podcast. Today, in this podcast episode, we're going deep into the difference between thinking versus replaying. Replaying is a term that I came up with because there are so many people out in the world that think that they are thinking when in fact they're not thinking. They're just replaying. And when we talk about thinking, we're talking about very specific things that we do in order to manifest our conscious desires. That's thinking. When we think about replaying, we're thinking about an unconscious act, something that we do regularly, and something that we are very, very familiar with. The same ideas, leading to the same beliefs, leading to the same behaviors, leading to the same I ams when you look in the mirror every single morning. So warriors, today, what I want to do is I want you, yes you, I want you to know the difference between thinking and replaying. And starting today, what I want you to do is I want you to start doing what so many people are not, and that is called thinking. Thinking is a conscious act. Replaying is an unconscious act, as I just tapped into. So thinking is this thing that we do out of awareness, and this thing that we do because we're tired of the results that we're getting in our lives. And when you get tired enough, dissatisfied to the point of no return, I'm never going back to that same place, getting those same results, being that same person. When you get to that point, you start thinking. So thinking is a conscious act, and replaying is an unconscious act. Be honest with yourself today. Thinking takes brain juice, at least at the start. Replaying takes no brain juice, hence it takes no effort. Now remember that your level of effort isn't just led by your level of motivation or inspiration. No. Your effort and the capacity in terms of your brain juice has a lot to do with your blood sugar levels, has a lot to do with your sleep patterns. Many times we go, I'm just not motivated, or I just don't have the skills. I just don't have this, I just don't have that. Well, we need to look into these two areas because they are the seat of your willpower. And without a certain degree of willpower, you'll never be able to think. You'll only replay. So thinking takes brain juice at the start. Why do I say at the start? Because to reprogram the subconscious mind / inner child, things must become a habit. Unless something becomes a habit, the inner child doesn't believe that it is truly that important. If the inner child's subconscious mind deems something as unimportant, then you'll just go back and revert to what you've always done. But through habit, what tends to happen is we move an idea or a thought or a perception into a belief. And once something becomes a belief, Now watch out, because that person is within the realm of transformation. Replaying, as I mentioned, takes no brain juice, hence takes no effort. Thinking leads to desired action. Replaying leads to repeated action. So when we find that we have a certain degree of awareness, when we find that we're tired of the results that we're getting, we start thinking, which leads to desired action. It really is a snowball effect, isn't it? You start thinking rather than replaying, and your perceptions over things are a lot more neutral to pleasant, and the feelings in your body start to shift, and the emotions start to shift, and you start manifesting new people into your life. You start becoming introduced to your purpose and mission. You start to become a more spiritual person. You start to really take into account and have a tremendous amount of gratitude for the small things, like the grass that you walk on. No longer do you take it for granted. Replaying allows you to take everything for granted. You're basically just looking for the next thing to run into, the next thing to prevent, the next fear, the next threat. That's replaying. Replaying leads to repeated action. Thinking leads to desired action. What else? Thinking makes us feel vulnerable. Replaying same ideas makes us feel comfortable. Comfortable. So Dennis, you're telling me that vulnerability is that stepping stone towards freedom and inner peace? Yes. And Dennis, you're telling me that if I stay comfortable within these same ideas that I replay every single day, it may feel comfortable, but I may be getting the same results in my life? Yes. You know what it is? It feels like you have one foot on the gas pedal and you have one foot on the brake. What happens? You don't go anywhere. You're stuck in the same place. So thinking yes makes us feel vulnerable, but let me tell you something. Vulnerability is the gateway. After a set period of time, you stop feeling vulnerable and you start feeling like you've just entered a new home. That home has different paint colors. That home is smaller or bigger. It's different. That home smells different. That home looks different. When people come into that home, they feel different. This is the exact same thing as recognizing the fact that you are within the realm of inner peace and have transformed yourself into someone who is more minimal in their approach to life. You almost don't need much to find gratitude. So thinking makes us feel vulnerable, yes. Replaying makes us feel comfortable. Thinking slows things down, hence positively alters what we pay attention to on the outside. Replaying speeds things up, hence negatively alters what we pay attention to on the outside. This system within you directs your focus onto certain things in the external environment, depending on whether you are thinking or replaying ideas. So when you start thinking, you are drawn towards like-minded things. When you're replaying the same ideas every single day, your external focus goes on to the same things that you see every single day. So therefore, you start noticing the threats. You start noticing what could you be afraid of. You start noticing people that are angry. You start noticing people that are afraid. And you start noticing more and more chaos and drama in your life on the outside because you're replaying the same ideas. But thinking moves you into a whole nother world. When you start thinking and bringing to introduction these new ideas, introducing it to your subconscious, introducing it to the inner child, all of a sudden, what you focus on the outside starts to change as well. You're starting to go, oh my God, I walk through this block every single day and I never noticed X. I never noticed how the flowers were so purple. I never noticed that girl who walks around here all the time. I just kind of glimpsed at her, but now I'm truly recognizing that she smiles at me every single time I walk here. So your external reality starts to shift as your internal reality starts to shift. This is very, very important, guys. I can't tell you how important this is. If you're tired of seeing the same things, experiencing the same things, exhausted at work, ready for deep meaning in your life, ready for purpose, ready for an awakening, then you have to start thinking and stop replaying. And this starts with a lot of vulnerability at the beginning, as we mentioned. Thinking comes from the adult mind in the form of direction, whereas replaying comes from the inner child mind in the form of protection and preservation of old belief systems. Don't beat up your inner child. Don't beat up your subconscious. Don't beat yourself up, because this part of you is simply looking to protect you, and it believes that this is what you want. The inner child thinks that the adult mind wants to live in a world of prevention, of fear, of being prepared for the next threat, fight or flight, many times even freeze. The inner child thinks that this is what you want. So why do you keep beating yourself up? Why do you keep hurting the inner child, saying, I am this and I am that and I'll never be able to recover? Your inner dialogue is the most important thing throughout the day. The inner child just wants to preserve your old belief systems until the conscious adult mind comes down and tells it what to do with them. So it's up to you to say, hey, these old belief systems that are ingrained in lack, ingrained in not having enough or never having enough, or perfectionism, or undeservedness. I don't deserve happiness. I don't deserve inner peace. I don't deserve good relationships because that's what I saw. That's what's programmed into me. False, 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 and more false. These are just perceptions based on the information that your five senses gained when you were a child. And some of you are going, no, I had a bright childhood. Well, okay. Well, just because you think that you had a bright childhood doesn't mean that your inner child didn't perceive things differently than how your adult mind is perceiving things. As well, we must take into consideration that anxiety disorders have the potential of going back generation after generation after generation, the same perceptions, the same cycle. Well, let me tell you something. It ends here. It ends with you. Anxiety in your family ends with you. That's it. And I don't even care if it's just anxiety. It would be panic. Could be lack. Could be an inability to give back to this world. Maybe your parents, their parents, their parents, their parents were basically within a cycle of, hey, let's just do this for the rest of our lives. This career is comfortable. We're able to make a living. Well, maybe it doesn't help as many people as you want to help. So all of that ends with you by recognizing whether you are thinking, which means it comes from the conscious, aware, and adult mind itself, or you are replaying, which comes from the inner child in the form of protection and preservation of old limiting belief systems. It ends with you. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to show you the path. The choice to walk that path is up to you. I'm not going to force you to walk that path. You have to decide. And guess what? When you decide, you're just starting the journey. You're going to be met with mistakes, at least perceptually. You'll think you made a mistake, and setbacks and challenges. Life gets harder when you decide to heal. It doesn't get easier. Life gets harder when you decide to heal yourself of anxiety or anything else, any kind of change in your life. Because as I mentioned in previous podcast episodes, the inner child will put up a fight. It will fight to preserve these old ideas and belief systems. It will fight you with everything it has. In fact, it's very opportunistic as well. There you are, speaking to someone new, and all of a sudden you get this itch on your face. Ding, ding, ding. Defense mechanism, subconscious mind looking to get you out of there because it's a new experience that you may make a mistake around. Or you start yawning out of the blue in a new environment, unfamiliar. Defense mechanism, ding, ding, ding. Inner child right there looking to pull you right back in. Hey, go back to your bedroom. It's safe over there. Well, what's your job in that moment? Here's your job. Every anxious moment is an opportunity to show the inner child that you must upgrade your belief systems and therefore your identity. Every anxious moment is that. Can you imagine going about your life recognizing that every anxious moment is an opportunity? I don't care if that's a physical symptom. I don't care if that's a feeling in your body or if that's an intrusive idea. I don't care if it's anything. It's all an opportunity to say, you know what? I'm no longer going to do the same thing that I've always done. And therefore, you start opening yourself up to this intuitive voice, the voice of your heart that will guide you to the next thing you have to do for your healing journey. And when you are being led by your heart rather than your mind, which likes to edit everything, now you're on the path. And just keep walking. Remember that you are more than anxiety. Never forget that. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Enjoying this podcast? Please give it a positive rate and review right here, right now. And if you have any other questions on any of my recovery programs, head over to theanxietyguy.com today. Have a great day because you deserve it. Bye-bye.
Thanks for being an important part of the Anxiety Guy podcast community. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a positive rate and review. If you're searching for further support on your road to recovery from anxiety, head over to anxietyexit.com and take part in the powerful End the Anxiety program based around the CBT model. If you're searching for a more one-on-one approach, you can sign up now for personal coaching sessions with Dennis via Skype. Remember, you are more than anxiety. See you in the next episode.